Good morning. I have Eli and Tim.
Morning.
Tim's
Hello.
the brain here. We're gonna pick his
yes.
brain. We're gonna pick his brain. And today's episode is DS Tech travel tips, techie
Yes.
travel tips, because they're not your standard travel tips. These are things that you should be aware of when you're traveling to keep your data safe and your money safe and whatever else. So go to dstech.net to sign up for our newsletter and email us if you would like to sign up for a free assessment. The free assessment form is on dstech.net too. So you can get all kinds of stuff there. And my newsletter, you will get all kinds of tips, including tips like these.
Yeah.
So what do you want to start with? Because we were talking before we came on here, and
Well,
it brought back lots of stories in my head too.
Yeah, there's a lot to cover when traveling. I guess I'll say it started this was there was some new advisories put out from the FBI warning people about the idea of juice jacking, which to me, well, first of all, we'll discuss what it is and should you actually be concerned with it. How common is that attack in the wild? And then we'll talk
Stealing
about
my can of juice.
Is that like when my kids steal each other's juice
No, we're not
boxes?
spiking your
not
juice.
juice
We're
boxes?
not
Oh.
juice boxing. It's completely different.
Oh.
But so essentially, what juice
You can
jacking
spike
is?
my juice though.
Essentially, what juice jacking is you are offering someone free power, like a USB charging port, like in an airport or a coffee shop, and then when you plug your phone in to get charged, essentially it is downloading your pictures, your data, or it could be even then installing malware on your device to then log your keystrokes later. So essentially, by plugging your phone into a USB port, it's automatically running some sort of code that can then collect your data, which would be very bad. The thing with that, though, is, I can't even get through TSA with more than 4 ounces of liquid. So the chances of me actually bringing in like a Raspberry Pi and a fake wall port plate and configuring like a fake charging station in an airport is probably pretty slim.
You have to do a lot to do that. Then it's not just the cable.
Yeah, we'll get into that. There are cables as well as well.
Sorry.
So the idea, their advisory is just avoid ports. Bring your own cable, bring your own port, use power. So that's the easiest way to circumvent it is to bring. I call them wall warts, the little thing you plug into the wall to plug your USB into, and then bring your own USB cables as well. Because there are also nefarious cables.
Can you carry battery charges? Probably not.
Battery banks are important to bring as well, but I haven't looked at the regulation to see how big you can bring on airplanes or not.
Right.
There's probably certain size
look
restrictions.
At the TSA's website.
But yeah, a battery bank that you can bring to charge as well. Then you got your own power for sure is definitely a recommendation. A more concern than the actual outlet being messed up. Things also like hotels. They say in a hotel room, someone's in the hotel room for a while. They may be able to remove it, mess those USB ports up. So kind of just be aware of that. It's better to use an actual wall port with your thing as well. Again, the chances of it actually happening in the wild are probably very slim. What's more common are these cables that exist. It's just a cable you can buy for $120 to $180. And what the cable essentially does is it has on built-in keystroke injection, mouse injection, geofencing. It can basically do keyloggers on you, all this kind of stuff with just a cable, restricting by area. So you can just do, it's just different things that
What's cable, geofencing?
It's for different restrictions for areas. So you can only access this from say Michigan or the US. So if a connection is happening from outside, so they can it basically have all these tools that are built in that we use in security, and then it's built into this cable already. And so you plug your phone into the cable, and it can do all the bad things that the outlet does, but it's just built right into the cable itself. Mm-hmm. So it's more advisable to bring your own cables. I mean, it's very rare, but that to me is more likely to happen where someone leaves a cable at a coffee shop or at an airport.
How convenient.
And you're like, my phone's at 10%. Oh, how convenient. There's a cable right here. Plug it in. Don't do that. So that's where I'd see more likely is the actual cable itself being, I guess you could say infected or nefarious. The biggest thing to break all of these is very simple. You take out your phone, you hold the power button on the phone, and then you turn your phone off before you plug it in. So if you're in the worst case scenario, you don't have a charger, you don't have anything, and you have to use the provided power for you, turn your phone off, completely up, shut it down first, and then plug it in. This will allow the USB to only use the power, and it won't be able to do any sort of data or video connection to it as well. So that's the simplest way you can prevent it if you did have to use a provided workaround to beat the hackers.
But otherwise, our biggest travel tip there is to be prepared.
Be prepared. Bring your own cables, your own chargers, everything else. Don't just assume the stuff provided for you is safe, especially in these high travel areas. Airports, again, I don't really see it being a big issue because I see the
You can't
security
see
there
them
so
going
much.
in. Yeah.
Hotel rooms,
Right.
maybe coffee shops, more realistic. I could see that happening. But yeah, just bring your own cables and be aware of it. Chances of it not too high. Where you will be concerned in the wild, some other travel tips that I would suggest is the biggest thing is free Wi-Fi. It's actually way more common where someone will set up a hotspot with no password. And then if your device connects to that hotspot, they will start downloading and siphoning your data or doing malware, do all the same thing we were just talking about,
Yeah.
only through the Wi-Fi connection. So the biggest thing you want to do on your devices is to disable automatic Wi-Fi connections. Your phones by default will typically look for Wi-Fi, and if there's a Wi-Fi available, it'll just connect automatically, trying to be convenient for you. Well, if you're traveling through an airport, for a city, for a hotel, those are common places where people will make these hotspots called free guest internet or whatever, and then you connect to it, and then you're in trouble. So even if you're at a hotel where they offer free internet, make sure you actually get the correct, they call it SSID, or the name of the Wi-Fi, and connect to the exact one that they give you, because it's very common if you go to, say, a Hilton hotel or a Super 8 or whatever it is, someone will, if that's nefarious, will stay at that hotel and call it Hilton free Wi-Fi or
Yep.
Super 8 free Wi-Fi.
It's
It'll
very
mimic the
sneaky.
name, and then you connect to
Mm.
it thinking it's right, and then there you go. That is way more common. It's actually
Yeah.
being done in the wild, and that's the biggest one to concern yourself with, is the public Wi-Fi.
And you told
Um,
me that a big warning sign is if it doesn't ask for a
Doesn't
password.
ask for a password, because even hotels will have a generic
They'll give you the
password
password.
or whatever with your slip. So it's very rare that someone is that laxed in their security that they just have no password. Now, maybe a little cheap motel in some little town somewhere maybe
Maybe.
has that, but then chances of them actually using free Wi-Fi connections to steal your data is probably lower. It's more of a big city thing. So obviously do your due diligence, but there should be some sort of password on any Wi-Fi connection now that they're offering. So that's the biggest red flag, is that if there's no password at all,
And
don't
of course,
connect to it. And now
you
you
could
could use
use-
like a VPN to help protect you, but even with that, I would still just avoid
or
those.
just use your data connection.
Exactly.
Right?
Data
So
is-
if you have
there you
unlimited
go.
data,
Most people have unlimited data now. It's not like it used to be where everyone's only got like 5 gigs of data to use for the month for the most part. So yeah, using your LTE if it's available. As always, use a VPN connection if you do need to do it. Avoid doing, say, online banking on McDonald's Wi-Fi. Use your LTE, your own private networks for that kind of stuff. Is the biggest thing with the travel. A couple other ones that are kind of neat is always make sure you have your two-factor enabled before you start traveling. Maybe you have certain accounts that you've set up recently. Just make sure everything's got the two-factor enabled on it and everything's secure in that way, as well as your device. Make sure the device has, if you have a biometric login, that's the best way to do it, with a fingerprint or scanner. Otherwise, having an ability, and then you want to back up all your data before you leave on a big trip. You can take like a copy of all your data. Just what if you lost your device? What if it gets broken? What if it gets stolen? You don't know. And so the
Right.
biggest thing is take a backup of everything first, because then if it's stolen, you can just load that back on the new device again right away. So before you travel, taking an entire backup can be helpful if you have the time,
and make sure you have your account set up with
with the ability to wipe.
yeah.
Because a lot of there's phones now with accounts where you can have it where you can log into like a web UI and you can send a command to the phone to essentially wipe it. Because if you lost your phone in an airport, well, is it actually in loss prevention or did someone steal it? You don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
Right? And so you're gonna lean
No
on
clue.
the stealing and just play it safe. And if you don't have that phone, just send the command to wipe the phone. That way they're not getting into your data. And then
Yeah,
you just get a
and
new
you
phone
can
and
easily
restore.
set it up on your Google account for Androids. And
I'm sure iPhone has the same thing.
Yes, they do.
I'm sure, where you can just
my
wipe it.
daughter has one.
Okay.
And we set it up on her Apple ID too, so that
Yep.
if she lost her phone, she can just log into the computer. Same thing with the Android.
Yep.
You say, where's my
makes
my
a couple of
phone?
checks, like,
And you
no,
see where it is, and you're like, and it's like traveling around the country. You might want to erase it
Yes,
and
prevent
wipe
them,
it out.
because
and
they will
lock
take
it
that
down.
phone and they will connect it to a computer, and using tools they will try to break into the phone to get
Yeah.
your data and stuff. That nothing's 100% foolproof. So by setting that wipe command to the phone with your account is the best way to do it. Decouple that information, because that's that's a common thing too.
Yeah, and another point that you wanted to make was that your phone is actually more important than your
most
wallet.
people are
almost.
still in that old
Yes, yes.
mentality of
Right?
like they keep
Oh,
their
God,
wallet
absolutely.
on their purse, and they never lose their wallet. Think of the old school robber mugging you in the alleyway. Give me your wallet. Well, now they're actually in the alleyway and they're mugging you, and they're like, give me your phone, because the phone that you have has significantly way more data and information on it than your wallet does. I think of it like, if I lost my wallet today, Yeah, it'd be inconvenient. It might take me a day or two to get my new ID, cancel my cards, and issue new ones or whatever that is. But you're looking at maybe a day or two of annoyance. Whereas if you lost your phone with every single account, every single banking account, every single password you know how to change, you're talking weeks, if not maybe a month, to
Huge
restore
setback.
all of that, of a huge
Yeah.
setback. So the idea of treating your phone as more important than your wallet is a mindset you need to start carrying and going forward, because that is the truth, especially nowadays where everything is in that device.
Yeah.
So,
For sure.
and then I guess a final little side, one last little travel tip is if you do a lot of tech work on your laptop and you are, say, accessing online banking and things, if you have the ability to get a privacy screen for your laptop. They're not cheap. Usually to get a good one, you're spending, 150, 200 bucks or so to get a good one. But if you use them or sat by someone, you could be sitting next to someone in a plane and you can't even see their screen. They're that good if you get a nice high quality one, which will then prevent people from, a lot of times people will like look over your shoulder, see what you're doing, try to look at accounts, and they notice that, oh, this person's logging into banking and they're checking stocks and they're, they must be, all this stuff on the computer. They're going to kind of see that as a high value target, maybe try to swipe your
I'm
thing
picturing
later.
myself.
you know.
What you doing?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So privacy screens are big.
Me,
If
I'd
you
be
do a lot of
obvious.
traveling, I recommend them for people too. So a little minor tip there. But yeah, that's pretty much all I had for travel tips. Treat your phone like your wallet is the biggest thing and the security of it, and then don't using the public Wi-Fi and all the other stuff that we kind of talked about there. So
Cool.
as far as the initial spawning of it, of the juice jacking, I personally don't see that as big of a threat as some of these other things like the free Wi-Fi attacks and other things like that. So, but the biggest thing is just turn your phone off. If you can remember to turn your phone off before using any sort of public outlets, if you're really concerned about it, that'll be the one way to basically negate any sort of attack that way.
Sounds
So,
good.
Perfect.
That's pretty much all I had. I don't know if you
Those
guys have
are
any
our
questions or follow-ups. or
Quick
anything, but-
travel tips,
Yes.
right? So be prepared and be cautious, right?
Yep.
And make sure you have all that stuff set up. Rewatch the video if you missed any of it because he was talking fast.
Yeah, I get excited to talk about sometimes.
That's okay. That's okay because he's got all this stuff in his head. So go to dstech.net, sign up for our newsletter so you get more tips and more information. And security at dstech.net if you need to get a hold of us. Drop your questions so we have more to give you, whatever you want. Make it a great day.